Welcome to Talk from the One, Episode 2, Saudi Arabia. What a race. What a race. Indeed, what a race. We again not going to talk about the obvious. And the obvious meaning that it was another win for Max. You know, he shot away into the night lights, as they would say. And lo and behold, another win. Still on Max Verstappen. And in fact, Red Bull Racing. Now, a couple of years ago, I think going on a couple of years ago, it was held that they overspent the spending cap. Now, what does that mean? In very simple terms, without going into, complex FIA rules and regulations, clauses, it meant they cheated. They spent so much money on their car, as in developing the car, that the car was miles ahead. That said, now let's compare that to what happens in sports. In general, a cyclist, a boxer, a swimmer perhaps, was found doping. They won. World champ. I think it's fair to say that most sporting organizations, after a lengthy process, would disqualify that particular athlete and take away their crown. Now, why was Red Bull not penalized if they clearly developed the car essentially with no spending cap and the car is miles ahead of everyone? So why are we surprised they're winning all the races? Why are we surprised that the FIA did not find it fit to punish them by, maybe a really hefty fine to serve as a deterrent to others, or draconian, take away the constructors and driver championship wins? But none of that happened. So some say you really have to love Formula One to be able to be engaged constantly, especially when you have to weigh to the expectations that have been defined by what we know sport and sporting excellence to be. Otherwise, it becomes a waste of time. Well, Saudi Arabia, the only racing, if I can call it that, for me, was between, not that I'm not a fan of Sir Lewis, but yes, I am a fan of Sir Lewis, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. Now, it's undenied that the hard compound tire didn't maybe not necessarily work too well for Sir Lewis, and the McLaren of Lando was definitely quick on the straight line and perhaps cornering. But I think amazingly so, despite being in a slower car, underpowered car, less aerodynamic advantages, Lewis was able to keep Lando Norris behind him. Now, I found that absolutely amazing. And each time they went around the circuit and we get into the DRS zone and Lando mounts his attack, my heart beats faster. And then it stops. And then it beats faster again. And then I see the absolute brilliance of driving being displayed by Lewis. And he kept it clean at the same time, retaining its lead until they clearly went into the pit for a tire change, going to the softs. Now, unlike Lewis, that kept it really, really clean, what I did not necessarily appreciate was Lando using dirty tricks, in my definition, to prevent a Lewis overtake. Lewis stopped his overtake without resorting to dirty tricks, as in weaving under braking and doing all sorts of shenanigans that could lead into both cars being taken off the track. Lando thought otherwise, that he needed to weave, at least on one occasion, aggressively so, to prevent a Lewis overtake. Now, one thing that is clear is that the result would have been different if Lewis had achieved that overtake. He would have been in a position to attack the new guy. A credit to him, his debut in Formula One, he did absolutely well. And perhaps George Russell. And, sometimes I think of myself as a lunatic or a fanatic of Sir Lewis. But then when the voting came up and I saw the overwhelming amount of people, overwhelming in my view, that voted driver of the day to be Sir Lewis, except for the new guy, which I think we must admit he did put up a good show to earn himself the driver of the day. I mean, did he do anything spectacular during that race? The jury's out. I'm not sure he did. One thing I am clear about is Lewis did put on an extremely good show. And in fact, truth be said, the whole Grand Prix, for me anyway, was centered around the battle between Lewis and Lando. And that was the only exciting thing anybody could remember about that race, which continues to underscore the fact that Lewis Hamilton was a brand in F1. And that may be with us for yet a few more years than anticipated. Enough for me today. Again, another short episode. I wouldn't bother talking about the obvious, which I only try to talk about very quickly. Essentially, just a highlight of my observations and, my further thoughts on certain events. And before I end, I think equally I need to talk about the strategy of Mercedes. As we all know, Lewis did not necessarily agree with the strategy. There was a crash. Free pit stop for everyone. Everyone came in to wear new boots. Everyone, obviously, except for Lewis and Lando. I really can't talk about what McLaren is doing because I don't necessarily follow their drive or their cars. But why Mercedes decided not to bring Lewis in as well and give him the better choice of tire to compete in that race, again, serves as a mystery to me. And the only thing that came to mind when I watched that was one particular race. I can't remember it for the life of me, where it was choking down with rain. And everybody went into the pits to change their boots. I think there was an accident. Everybody went in to go into full wet. Lewis was on slicks, left out there to start the rain. In fact, I remember David Coulthard say, well, I don't know which weather forecast the Mercedes team are looking at because the rain is going to get heavy. So they left Lewis out in slicks, in heavy rain, after a car just spun out. Every single car went out to wear full wets. And then Lewis restarted the race all by himself, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Set me a first in Formula One after a crashed restart, in full slick, in heavy rain. And then everybody joined in not too long after that race started. And into the first lap of the race, box. So we converted a win, a potential win, with Lewis in front and threw him at, well, effectively we added 30 plus seconds to his race. So that's the kind of strategy that Mercedes tend to come up with. And I think before we get too carried away here, I think we need to remind ourselves that they are not a Z-lister. They're not new in the games of Formula One. They perhaps have, people that good money can buy to strategize. But yet they come up with this questionable strategies that even lay people like us cannot but wonder what is going on at Mercedes. Enough of my rant. Hope you enjoyed the Saudi Arabian race. I certainly did not. And I look forward to seeing you at the next race. Stay tuned for more updates. Again, thanks for watching Talk Formula One, and please feel free to post your comments. I'll be more than happy to see what your thinking is about some of these observations.